options, choices, and we get them often. Yeah. And if you ain't no, God damn it, what? Any, mini, miny, mo. Let's get it, let's go. If you ain't no, what? Any, mini, miny, mo. Let's go.
And we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, you already know what it is. Welcome to a special episode of Down in the Basement podcast, where it's actually in the mind of episode, where we bring somebody in as a special guest to basically pick their mind and share their story using our platform. Today, we have our very own, a friend of the show, actually a friend before the show. A special mentor, need us say more. He's a professional vegetarian, first and foremost. A CrossFit athlete, an education director. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mike. There you go. There they are.
There you are. We were just waiting for that.
Thank you.
And we also got Simon in the house. What up, Simon?
What's up?
We got Ricky, the soundboard guy.
The one and only.
And last but not least, my name is Anthony.
Yes, sir.
And this In the Mind of episode is very special because Mike comes from us. We've known Mike since we were young, in high school. Kids, some might say.
Hey.
Children.
He was like,
y'all are still young.
It's so crazy. Honestly, he was not like a legit dad, but like I saw him as that figure, you know? Like I was scared of him.
He definitely had an authoritative figure. He used that to his advantage.
Oh my God.
Mike, to give you your own entrance, the floor is yours. Tell the audience, who you are.
All right. You've already alluded to some of the stuff that I am, but I'm Mike Osorio. Been a vegetarian for about,
how long?
Almost 20 years now.
Wow. What?
Yeah, 4 of those were definitely vegan. 4 years of vegan for sure. So it's been a long time, and I can attest to that when you guys met the program and stuff. So
I told you,
you were
professional.
you were vegetarian or vegan before it was like cool to be like vegetarian.
Oh yeah, I have definitely seen the progression of how vegetarian and veganism is now compared to how it was years ago. I have seen that trend.
Nice, you're OG. Right on.
Yeah. You made it cool.
OV, original vegan.
Right.
Now, before we dive deep into your thoughts, right, or into your mind, we did want to ask you some general questions, just to kind of break the ice. First and foremost, the new movie that's coming out, King Kong versus Godzilla. The audience wants to know, whose team are you on?
Oh, I'm Team Godzilla.
No, I'm just kidding.
My man. See?
I'm Team Godzilla for sure.
Okay.
All right, good. Now, would you rather take on 100 duck-sized horses or 1 horse-sized duck?
And why?
Yeah.
I would take on 100 duck-sized horses versus 1 duck-sized horse, I guess.
Horse-sized duck.
Horse-sized
duck. There you go. It's all about the height advantage, I can kick 100 little, little horses versus one big giant duck with 1 peck can take me out probably.
Bro, for liking animals enough not to eat them, that's kind of violent to the horses.
You thought about this.
You thought about it. He's like, honestly, like, can they really do this?
He's visualized it.
That wasn't a setup.
When it comes to survival, I'm all for having lots survive, but if it's down to me, I'm gonna make that call.
There you go.
Hey, right there, bro.
And then one more.
All right.
This man
Silverback gorilla versus Uh, black bear.
What was the first one again?
A silverback gorilla versus a black bear.
I'm gonna give it to the silverback just because I think they're more agile and can move much more efficiently than a bear.
And they can bench 1,800 pounds. That's what I'm talking about.
There you
Let's
go.
But
I like that.
Good.
but he's
Okay.
Team
Hey.
Godzilla. Make it make sense, dude.
We're off to a great start here.
Okay. Some of the icebreaker questions that I wanted to ask. I also did get reminded that you had a tattoo of, if I remember correctly, a marijuana leaf.
No, they're not marijuana leaves.
Anthony wants
Now
to
that I'm
be
old
so-
enough to know.
No, I always wondered.
No,
that.
they're definitely not marijuana leaves.
Okay, good. Thank you for clearing that up.
They're just regular leaves that, happen to look like, I guess, to some people like marijuana leaves, which I didn't realize until people.
Art is in the eye of the beholder, and okay.
So maple leaves.
I
maple
mean,
leaves.
yeah, they're like
They're maple leaves.
they're my interpretation of what maple leaves are.
Okay.
I always dug your tattoos. Like ever since I was your mentee, back in the day, you were my mentor,
Manatee.
someone that helped us
Mhm.
get through high school, eventually get into college. And I always liked the creativity that you had in terms of just like the art and
Mhm.
all of that. Like I thought it was always cool, but I was always kind of scared of you. So I'm glad.
Really?
Yeah, man, a little bit. I mean, it's like
You
I never-
look like you could beat us up.
yeah,
During that
you
time.
swole, which I'm saying is like why I wanted to bring you on to this
You do
pod.
CrossFit.
Well, I will say I later learned that when people saw me, I guess I had like resting bitch face, how so I learned I wasn't very approachable apparently, which I didn't think that was the case because I always thought I was like, oh, I'm just very chill, I'm always laughing, I'm always smiling. Like, how do people not approach me?
Yeah.
With when your dimples are always showing and everyone thinks that you're having a good time here. So I that, but I did get some people who did approach me and say like, yeah, I never approached you at first because I always thought you were like in a bad mood or you were mean or you were not very approachable. And I was like, huh, okay, I learned something about myself that time.
He's like, I'm just thinking about what workout I'm gonna do later.
For the most part, yeah.
That's cool. No, but I did want to say welcome. I want to let the audience know that we actually wanted to bring Mike on because a recent episode, our most recent episode 144, I believe, we were talking about this documentary that came out on Netflix called Seaspiracy. Have you happened to watch that documentary?
I have not watched the documentary, but I have heard a lot about it.
Yeah, man, it is insane. When I tell you that I watched this and it really like left a bad taste in my mouth, literally, because I had fish earlier that day. It was crazy. It was crazy, and I wanted my compadres here to watch it as well. I believe Simon was the one who actually ended up watching some of the documentary, right?
Yeah.
What'd you think about it?
So I've always been a person. So like, I mean, going into learning about the effects of how like we kill animals and all that. Like I've always been a person when I see it, I'm just like, actually, I really don't dive too deep into it, right? I never took the time to like just understand it. And Ricky, I think you brought it up last week, and I was kind of like, all right, cool. Give me a steak, right? And I said something like some joke like that. And then I watched this documentary, and it's some fucked up shit.
Oh yeah,
Like
it
it's
was
some
messed up.
really like fucked up shit. I think I saw like one of the big points there is like if we continue to go on this like global fishing spree, or what we call, will be we'll have a empty house of ocean by 2048, which is insane to just think about. It really blew my mind that like the industry of like, I guess like the fishing industry, how it's not specific to just like feed humans. It's more of like, let's eliminate every competition that will even touch a fish, including its predators, to give us more fish, which just doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah. And
Was
seeing those kinds of atrocities, I would say, is something that like normal people don't really think about. Like like how is our food made? Like how is it brought into like our just area that we want to consume it? And that really just started making me think a lot more and be just a lot more aware of what I'm eating, maybe how it's made, right? Like seeing that the fishing industry literally used slave labor to actually acquire fish and a bunch of other stuff that just doesn't really seem sanitary and safe and is messed up. It really just made me think like, you know what, maybe I want to start changing my diet. Maybe I want to start being a lot more aware of what I'm eating. And that's a big reason why I wanted our good friend Mike here, because since I've known you, man, you've been like no meat at all. And I respect that so much, dude. And like, I literally been trying to apply that in the last couple days, and it's tough. And it's tough to even like think about like what kind of things fit into a good diet, where like, because I know you are into fitness and really just like about that, and you're still out here looking swole, you know what I mean? Like just being like
Looking younger.
CrossFit. Yeah, how I see you 10 years later and you look younger, bro. Like honestly, that doesn't make sense to me. So
it's funny you mentioned that, because you know David Alvarez.
Yeah.
So he on Monday he commented, because me and him now work together, and he's all like, "Bro, how is it that you look like 10 years younger from when I knew you?" Like, doing, and I was just like, I don't know. I told him the key is, if the less hair you remove from your face, the younger you'll obviously look. Since right now the trend is to have facial hair, because older. So I'm like, just shave off the beard and you look 10 times younger.
Don't tell him that. He looks good with the beard. Don't tell him that. He looks he's rocking it well right now. I wish my stuff would fill in, but I'm not, I didn't get that.
Trust me, I have gaps too. I can't grow any hair in the dimples area, so I can never get that full beard across.
Oh yeah, I've been trying to get this connect for years. It's just gonna stay this way, and I've accepted it. This is final form, so yeah, I accept it.
I feel you.
I think going into like what we were talking about, kind of like Seaspiracy, and kind of like that kind of kickstarted and jump started my like initial thought of like, okay, is it better to be like for the community and such? I just quick question, kind of like to go into you, like what was that like point? I mean, as an OG, right, in the vegetarian game, what was that point that kind of made you just transition and be like, you know what, now is the time 20 years ago to be like, this is why I'm going to do and avoid eating meat?
Right. So to answer that question, I think an overview of my years of being vegetarian is definitely about transition. What I started with, it still plays a part of who I am now, but obviously I've integrated other things as I've grown. So for instance, I originally started looking into being a vegetarian back in middle school.
Wow.
We had an elective class that every student was supposed to take at the end of like the school day. It was like our 7th period, what we called it back then. And you could choose your class. So I saw that there was an animal rights class. So I was like, all right, this kind of seems pretty cool. I was always into animals. I always had dogs. And so I figured, oh, cool. I'll get to learn about other animals and, potentially that I might want to tell my mom, to get. So I joined that class, and the class was not what I expected it was going to be. I thought, animals here, what kind of dogs do you have? What kind of cats do you have? What birds do you have? No, it was animal rights, and like, how, there's people who don't eat meat, who are vegetarians, who are vegans, and, how it contributes to the globe and all that stuff. So that sparked it from the beginning, for sure. But I knew that being in a Latino household, that was not going to fly.
I was going to ask you something about that. Like, okay.
Yeah, I knew that wasn't going to fly. So one way, because I was like, after the class, it was after like a semester's worth of the class. So I was like, you know what? I think I want to try to be a vegetarian.
Oh.
But I know that if I try that and I bring it to my mom, she's not going to understand. And she's not going to know what the hell to cook me.
Mm-hmm.
One movie, oh, he's a vegetarian, I'll make you lamb versus not chicken.
Yeah.
I think it's the Greek wedding or something like that. I forget what it's called. Mm-hmm. So the way I started was, all right, let me just eliminate one thing out of my food network, as I call it. So I first started with pork.
Okay.
because I knew it was the one thing in our household that we didn't already eat enough, or I shouldn't say enough of, but we ate the least amount of.
Mhm.
So I figured that should be pretty easy to, take away from my diet. We don't eat it very regularly, so when it is, when my mom does cook it, I'm not gonna really miss out on it much.
Okay.
And so from middle school, I slowly started integrating things little by little, and I feel like that's always a success of when someone wants to become a vegetarian or a vegan. It's you can't just jump into cold turkey and say this day, next day, I'm a vegetarian and screw meat, screw art. No, it's like I feel like you're gonna go through withdrawal because it's so used
Oh
to
yeah.
nutrition and
Damn.
you know
You'd be at Burger King the next morning. We're looking for a Whopper.
exactly. It's like all of a sudden your body just is not gonna not crave it. It's still gonna crave it. So I would people, transition into it slowly. Just start eliminating certain things from your diet, and then as you keep going, you're essentially gonna get to a point where you've eliminated all animal products in a sense.
Mm.
Okay.
That's how I basically started. And so I started from middle school. In high school, every single grade level, I started removing something. So it was pork, and then it was beef, and then it was chicken, and then I think fish was the last one.
Mm.
So right
Okay.
there, you have 5 meats. So 5 grades. By the time I went into college, I just went full-fledged vegan.
Got it. So it's been 20 years since you've had like any sort of meat. Wow.
Correct. Yeah.
You know what's crazy too is when you really think about it, like the whole vegan movement wasn't but like a couple years ago when things really started to pop off, Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and all these places really started even like having these vegan alternative, like these meat alternatives. Like, so where would you, because this is really what I want to know is like, how do you get your protein? Like, how did you like really like before and now, like how are you supplying your body with those vital nutrients?
Good question. So in high school, definitely for sure, I wasn't lacking in protein because technically in high school I was still eating some animal products. Like I said, as years went by, I was eliminating.
True.
So it wasn't like my body was lacking.
True.
But by the time I got to college, when I introduced full time veganism, that's when my body started to notice like, oh, something's lacking here.
Mhm.
But I was fortunate enough that in college you have the dining hall,
Mhm.
and I went to UC Santa Cruz, and Santa Cruz was always known as the hippie, university.
Wow.
So I knew right off the bat that's where my people were. I knew for a fact that the dining hall would always have a vegetarian or vegan alternative, products for me. So
Mm.
I knew that I wasn't going to suffer, or I knew that I wasn't going to be lacking in something because I had an unlimited plan. So whenever I was hungry, boom, go straight to the dining hall. So
Okay.
it did. So I didn't suffer then. I would say after college is when, all right, I'm on my own now. I got to buy my own food in a sense. So that's when I definitely did start to take notice, and that's also when I started getting more into fitness. And obviously, the more you work out, the more your body needs, food to replenish and sustain itself. So that's where I had to do a little bit of trial and error and kind of seeing like, okay, what works for my body, what doesn't work for my body, what keeps me full, what doesn't keep me full. So I had to experiment a little bit when it came to my food consumption.
So is it like mostly tofu? Like I've been seeing a lot of alternatives out there from soy, jackfruit, lentil. Uh, Now we have Impossible and Beyond. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what were the main sources? Would you say? And I would also like to know, how do you rank them? Because I haven't tried some.
Perfect.
Because like the lentil shit looks kind of. I don't
Yeah.
like. It don't look good. You know what I mean? Like, so give me the tiers and which ones you prefer.
Sure. So to answer your first question, when I was beginning to start investigating, I was mostly eating a lot of tofu and seitan, and tempeh. Those three were like the main three that were out there. They weren't the best, I'm not gonna lie, but they were enough for me that I got creative and started developing also my cooking skills to kind of make this food work for me, and it tastes good enough for me. Um, Once veganism and vegetarianism started getting more popular, that's when those, you started getting companies coming out with a lot of products. Nowadays, you have like, chicken nuggets, you got ground beef, you got pork, you got fish. I mean, there are tons of products now that it's like, my goodness, if I had started this, if they had this 20 years ago, I probably would have been vegan. I think so.
You're that guy that's like, back in my day, it wasn't so easy to get vegan stuff.
Yeah, I will admit it does sound like that, but I mean, in all honesty, it's kind of true. You didn't see guys who were, athletes who were vegan.
Yeah.
Now, because now it's much more accessible and readily available. But back then, you weren't seeing I was working out, but I was looking skinny. I wasn't looking yoked or anything like that because I just couldn't pack on, the amount of protein. So I mean, yeah, it's much different nowadays. Now, rank the food for sure.
I want the ranking.
Impossible is my number one.
Impossible?
Yeah, Impossible. Love Impossible.
Oh.
Dude, you cannot tell the damn difference. I tried it from Burger King. I tried it from Carl's Jr. And I tried a regular burger. And it's all the same thing to me, bro. I'm convinced that, I'm sorry, Mike, to say this, but I'm convinced you guys, I'm convinced there's meat in there, all right? I'm just saying.
They snuck a little in. They're like, nah.
Yeah. And a little bit of flavor. No, I'm just joking. Okay, damn, that's
Impossible number one.
Impossible is definitely number one. Beyond is definitely my second. I switch on and off between Impossible and Beyond in my own cooking. I have tons of it in my fridge.
Okay.
So I switch off a lot depending on what I'm gonna do because Beyond is good for some things, but not all things. So for Beyond, I like cooking their sausage links and their bratwurst. Those are really good. Impossible I use for ground beef and burger patties.
This is gonna help out a lot of people for sure. I already know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm guessing jackfruit is at the lowest, right? And lentils, because that should look.
Yeah, I mean the veggie alternatives of actually using vegetables, not a lot of them are good. There are some, but you definitely have to try a couple to know which ones are the good ones and which ones are
Got it. For your typical just dummy, right? Vegetarian versus vegan, right? Vegetarian, just the quick differences and what was the actual what are the big differentiators between the two for somebody who just wouldn't know?
So the one way I always break it down to people is vegan is super strict, nothing animal related. Vegetarian, you can still technically do some animal stuff.
Okay. That's pretty short, sweet, and simple. I think that makes sense. So no eggs, right? No milk, none of that stuff?
Yeah, vegan is nothing. Vegan is nothing animal derived, basically. So with vegetarianism, you have different levels because you can technically have vegetarians who eat eggs. You have vegetarians who drink milk. Basically, it's the byproducts of animals. So obviously, milk coming from cows, eggs coming from chickens. There's another one, honey coming from bees.
Is that really they make it, but come on, I hear about that. People are like, no, you can't eat honey because we make bees our slaves and do this, but come on, man.
Honey is the one argument that if you ever talk to a bunch of vegans and vegetarians, they're gonna have they're gonna be on one side or the other. That's the biggest one because honey technically. The bees make it, but it's not necessarily it's coming from the bee itself.
It has to be sustainable, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you'll have opposite, commentary, and it just depends on the person and how they view and their views and stuff like that.
It's like Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah,
and it's
basically
the land of milk and honey.
Oh yeah.
Wait, so why can't you wanted to make sure that we brought it aware to the audience that you're not vegan, you are vegetarian, you like cheese and eggs. What is it about those that make it so you kind of don't want to just stray away from those?
I think for me, it's accessibility. Eggs and cheese is just much readily available. Vegan cheeses and vegan eggs and stuff like that, you have to sometimes you have to kind of trek to find that stuff.
Hell yeah.
Once again, as I always tell people, if you do your research enough, it shouldn't be a problem. But hey, sometimes if I'm out of eggs, it's I know I can't go to Trader Joe's because they already closed but Safeway's open 24/7.
Right?
Yeah, true.
So, but even Safeway is getting much better at introducing much more vegan products. Like they have Just Eggs, which is a vegan egg alternative, which
That's
is
what
really
I'm saying.
it's good. So I approve of that one, and I'll buy that too.
It's sold out
like
though.
Vegan eggs.
Yeah, bro, but it's sold out
what
everywhere.
what would a vegan egg be? Is it like an egg
Does
that's
it come out
manufactured?
from a vegan chicken?
Stop it, Ant. Stop it.
No, I think Just Eggs, if I remember correctly, I can't recall what the ingredients were, but I know it's made from like plants for sure. I think it's like pea extract or something like that. You know, science definitely does play a part where you can manipulate a lot of stuff to, get new, chemical reactions and products and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Just Egg is made out of just water, mung bean proteins,
There you
canola
go, mung
oil. It's just a lot of other stuff other than eggs. Yeah.
Mhm.
But I mean, it makes sense though, right? I mean, if that's obviously the agenda, and that's not the agenda, that sounds bad. It's the, the
Convenience
the
or-
mission behind
Mm.
being vegan, then it absolutely makes sense. So
Yeah.
right on.
Right.
It is really good that they're, at least now, things are just more accessible for everyone, right? So everybody has a decision, and it's like, great, you can do what you please. Here's all the information, make a decision. So
Oh yeah, big time.
I like that.
Like I said, I completely agree. I think the key to vegetarian and veganism in the long run is going to definitely be accessibility. It's how simple can you make it for people to have options in a sense.
Agreed.
So you're
For
saying
me, breakfast for me, whenever I go to work, I stop by Starbucks. They have the Impossible breakfast there.
you're
Boom.
right.
Makes it so much easier. Before I would have to maybe cook something at home, and sometimes I don't have time to.
Mm.
I may just have to shoot for the the real life eggs because I know it's gonna cook quicker. I can just hard boil eggs and boom, I have breakfast already ready to go.
Yeah. And maybe that's why it started to become so popular recently, is just because the amount of, support that other, places that didn't traditionally support it, as
Hell
you would
yeah.
have known,
Mhm.
dealing with it in the past. And now why people, it's just, as long as they make it easier, I'm sure more
Yep.
people will start to, trend in that direction.
That's what they're doing, man.
I agree.
That's where the industry is going, bro. Like with the creation of Impossible Beyond, you're starting to see so many more vegan alternatives appear in like everyday restaurants. Like you mentioned before, Burger
Mhm.
King has an Impossible burger. You know what I mean? And it's like just adding those things to the menu will make it more accessible, make it more convenient. Overall, I think it's healthier too. And the biggest thing that you alluded to before, it's like animal rights, bro. Like the way that we have animals in
That's what
in,
I was gonna say.
like cages, like chicken farms, salmon farms, like the way they treat
Mhm.
animals is just, it's so sad. And we try to ignore it because ignorance is bliss, right? Like if we don't know about it, we won't feel bad for them. But in reality,
Oh yeah,
it's sad, man. It's sad.
I completely agree. As I always tell people, people who in the beginning used to give me shit, I was all like, "Do you even know how your food comes? How your food is prepared?" And they could never answer that question, and they just always said no. But they would always give, "Well, I don't care as long as it tastes good. I'm fine." I'm like, no, that's
Ooh.
not how that works. You're going in blindly here. You don't even know what you're ingesting yourself here.
Correct.
Question.
I wanted to, go ahead, Ricky.
I quickly just wanted to ask you on that topic, right? Hunting. What do you think about that though? What do you think about the people that hunt, but not for sport, not for game, but for actual consumption? They eat the whole animal. They get their license. They do it at places that are, that where they are allowed to do so. What do you think about that?
So for stuff like that, I understand the purpose behind that. Especially like like Native American tribes, they will still do some of that stuff. And people who like to hunt wild game to actually eat what they catch.
Exactly.
Like respect that. Like I'm not here to, granted, I myself don't like it, but I understand it.
That's good.
I can acknowledge that when someone does that. But for someone to just do it for sport,
Yeah.
I don't see how you killing something, you get pleasure from that. You get an excitement. Like
Yeah.
it just doesn't make any sense to me when it's done for sport. But if you're doing it because you're actually eating it and all that stuff, I can respect it. I still wouldn't do it myself, but I can respect it because, hey, I know that that's not going to waste. And I know that, I'm not stupid. I know that, as we evolved, we were hunters and gatherers first. We killed game to get our nutrition and all that stuff. So it's part of the cycle of life. I get that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Respect.
You had said something earlier kind of about like when people were, when you were on your journey to, vegetarian, or what is the correct term, the ism for it? Is it vegetarianism?
Yeah, vegetarianism.
Okay, vegetarianism. You said that, when people like, poke fun at you, like, was there a lot of that when you were kind of going from, vegetarian to vegetarian, and even to this day? I mean, maybe not, but yeah.
Oh yeah, big time. Whenever something is different from the norm, you're always going to hear about it. People are always going to pick at it,
Damn.
So I was the only one out of all my friends who was a vegetarian. So naturally, I'm the target by default.
Damn.
Now I have more people who, will eat vegetarian food, vegan food, and I don't hear the jokes anymore. Once again, it's with anything. If you're the only one, you're going to hear about it. You're going to constantly hear about it. Even people who they know that you're a vegetarian, they will still go ahead and crack jokes at you just because it's I want to say it's what people are conditioned to do when something's the norm.
Absolutely.
Mike said,
Now you guys make fun of those that eat meat, huh?
Mike said, I'm
Nice.
vegetarian, but I still got beef, bro.
What's up?
That's what happened, bro. But hey, he ready if you want it, bro. Come on.
I'll hold my own.
Huh. Mike, you've always been like a CrossFit, very athletic. What would you say your best sport or your favorite sport is?
Well, my favorite sport is tennis since that's what I ended up playing from high school all the way to college. Even past college because I was technically still on tennis teams and leagues and all that stuff. So I would say tennis definitely was my favorite sport to play. CrossFit definitely is a close second. And then aside from that, like traditional sports, as I like to call them, probably hockey was like my third.
Oh, wow. Hockey.
Yeah, I played hockey when I was younger.
Roller hockey or?
Yeah, roller hockey.
Nice. Yeah, nice.
I played hockey once.
You think?
I dislocated my knee. It was bad.
Oof.
Mike knows about that.
Okay.
He was there when I broke my ankle.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, good times, huh?
No.
So, tennis, your favorite sport, huh? Which you'd say it's the best sport you play? Your best game?
Yes, I would say I'd have the most success from it, for sure.
Can you beat LeBron James in a game of tennis?
Most likely.
There you go. I like
Ooh,
the
there you go.
confidence.
Hey.
The confidence.
I'm pretty sure LeBron has probably never lifted a racket, or even if he had typical like newbie where hit the ball and the ball's gonna go up. It's not even gonna go across the court.
He's giving you points all day.
I love the confidence.
Hey, don't
There you
come
go.
at him, bro.
Yeah,
He's used to the beef.
holding his own.
I want to take it back to the vegetarian thing because like I'm a person who I've always been the person to like I was that guy. I'm never a person to make fun of people because they make their own decision on what they want to be or what they want to do. But like when it gets kind of spoken to me, we were talking about it in the podcast recently. I was just like, well, just give me a piece of steak because I'm still gonna eat it. But do you feel that like with this movement of like vegetarianism or veganism, is it something that like people should want to do now, or do you like think it's like this is gonna be a need to, because like if we don't, something very extreme in regards to like our livestock or even people our animals, are they even going to be here long? And I know this is like your own personal like opinion on it, but yeah, vegetarian or veganism, is this a want people should have now, or is it like a need that needs to happen, you think?
It would be foolish of me to say it's a need.
Mm-hmm.
Though me personally, I would love for everyone to be vegetarian and vegan, but I do think it is definitely something people should try. Just given the trends of how, our society is going, we might, to be blunt, we might fuck this up and, we might not be able to have farms anymore because we need the space for housing. So you build down their space. We're killing the rainforest. The life cycle. If you remove one animal, you remove the other one because one depends on the other.
Yep.
So I think if people tried it and they're successful, then we can increase the consumption of vegetarian and vegan items to be more readily accessible. That way, you have choices. I'm all about choice here.
Options.
Having the options there. Like I said, I know it's not going to go away, but if you have options, that's a better opportunity for you in the end, I feel.
No,
absolutely.
Yeah, he's totally right, and I agree. Like honestly, it's getting to a point where, like, you saw the Seaspiracy documentary, Simon. They said it's projected that by 2045 or something like that, that there won't really be enough fish in the sea in order for us to actually eat anymore. And it's like, how do you think that'll affect our oceans? How do you think it might affect it to a greater degree than we might even be thinking? But we don't even really check. We just go out and eat a $70 salmon at Santana Row like it's nothing, and leave your boyfriend to pay for it all. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I think the part that was really like shocking to me was in that Seaspiracy was the fact that we're literally killing off other animals, apex predators. I didn't know how important the shark was to the ocean until I watched this documentary. Like them being the apex predator, them being like the one who kind of controls the what is it? The circle of life, the food cycle, right? Like without them there, the food chain. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, and it blows my mind that like all of these the bycatches, right? All these animals that they catch in process of catching like a specific tuna or something.
300,000 whales and dolphins die as a product of bycatch, which means they're not even meant to be caught, but they're caught in the nets and they die because of it.
Yeah. And and maybe I'm being too woke too early on this, right? I just watched a documentary today, but I was having a conversation with somebody right before this podcast, and I was explaining everything. I'm like shocked. I'm like kind of excited, like, dude, like this is crazy. And the feedback I got was, well, just by you not eating it, how is that gonna change anything? And I took a long thought, and I was like, but this guy who just made this documentary at one point literally just loved animals. Then one day he said, I'm going to go clean beaches, right? He's not changing anything. Then he makes a documentary that millions of people are going to see. So if I'm already triggering my sense of thought on this, like how many other people are doing the same thing? And I feel like if everybody just thinks that way, like, oh, if I do it, I'm not going to fix anything, you're the problem, right? Like that's you, which is pretty crazy.
That's what I used to tell. Like, it's funny because that's exactly what I said to my girlfriend, who was the one that got me to watch it. I was like, what am I, just one person, or you going vegan, not consuming meat, like, or seafood? How is that really going to help? Because there's still so much more meat out there. And there was a quote at the end of the documentary from one of the oceanographers. She was one of the ones that was really respected by the director, and she basically said that like singular, what effect does it have? But if everyone does a little something, that causes a big effect. You know what I mean? And that's I don't know. What are you?
To piggyback off of you, Ricardo, that's what I like to call your sphere of influence. You yourself are a sphere of influence around the people who you engage with. If you have like little kids and nephews and nieces, they look up to you, guess what? If I see, if they see you doing something, they in turn will most likely want to do what you're doing. And therefore you now have engulfed them in your sphere of influence, because then they themselves are now going to start doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You may be one person, but you have enough influence to influence the next person. That person has enough influence, and then the chain reaction starts. So ultimately, it starts with one, but it reaches dozens en masse.
Yeah, it is crazy how powerful the word of mouth is, and the word of influences, or I guess the action of influences. A lot of people that don't feel like they have power or influence on things, but like you mentioned, you have friends, you have kids, you have, I don't know, a librarian you
Relatives.
talk to on lunchtime. It doesn't matter. Like
True.
there's somebody who watches or sees you, and even if you don't know, like that's a really good point. I never even thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Fear of
Like
anyone.
in my family, I was the only vegetarian in my family. And now I have 4 family members who have converted to vegetarian.
Wow.
What?
And they've done it for a couple of years now. So I was a sphere of influence to them. They saw me, saw what I was doing. You know, in the beginning, were they giving me shit for it? Yeah, they always made fun of me. Yeah, we have to give you special food and all that stuff. But guess what? Now, when I come over for Thanksgiving or for Christmas or for any other holiday, there are dishes there because more than one person is now a vegetarian or a vegan.
Damn, that's
Hey,
cool.
Bring out the tofurkey.
Yep.
You know what's going down. That tofurkey, dog. What you
Mhm.
think? Hey, yo, just to
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
go back to this topic of conversation, you're really into fitness. I'm really into fitness. I just got back on my rise and grind hype. 5 a.m. workouts. Come through, join the squad. Do you have tips on how to? Because you said it yourself. I was talking with you to trying to set up this episode, and you said just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's good for you, right?
Oh, big time. Oh, yeah.
So like, I want you to dive a little deeper into that. Like, what is the things that maybe you might think are good because it's vegan, but you should probably stay away from? I think one of them automatically is Takis. Takis, did you guys know is vegan? It doesn't
I
have.
had no idea.
Yeah, but it's not really good for you. It's Takis, you know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, Taki about it.
Good. You're still with those friends, I swear.
Sneaky guy.
Yes. I think now that vegetarian and veganism is getting really popular and a lot of companies are joining, to produce all these items. One thing that I think people are going to forget is that just because a company's making it and slaps the vegan or vegetarian label on it doesn't automatically mean that it's good for you.
Yeah.
All these burger joints who are making hamburgers now with Impossible or Beyond, great that it's an alternative, but it's not something where like, oh, well, because now it's Impossible and it's vegan, I'm going to eat this every single day and I'm going to be healthy. No, it's quite the opposite. You wouldn't eat a hamburger every single day and think you're going to look good as with 6-packs and all that. No, you're just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And same thing's going to happen with a vegan or vegetarian hamburger.
So stay away from hamburgers.
Well, it's not so much to stay away. It's just now have an option to enjoy a meatless burger. Just as with everything, it's all about moderation. You got to know how much to ingest and all that stuff.
I always had like an ignorant thought, and if you allow me to share, like I was always that person who's like, okay, vegans, vegetarians, stop. They don't want to eat meat, right? I want to make something alternative that tastes like me. And I always thought about it, but like the way
Ooh.
you just said it right now, I think that makes more sense because it doesn't mean you don't want to enjoy a hamburger. It just means that you don't want to enjoy an animal that was killed horrendously for a hamburger. You just want to get it
Exactly.
somehow, some other way. So I think, yeah, you've debunked my ignorance on that. I was gonna sit here and ask you, why would you guys? I literally have it here as a question, and I'm glad I didn't ask that.
Right.
That's a funny
No, trust me, you aren't the first person to have brought that argument up. I still hear it sometimes. It's like, well, if you don't want to eat meat, then why make products that resemble our meat products
That's a
already?
good point.
That's not the point. The point is that I can enjoy food like every other food that already exists out there. It's just that my food choice doesn't harm an animal. It doesn't contribute, to potentially CO2 and all the other stuff, greenhouse gases and all that stuff.
Yeah,
You have to be smart about it. You have to be educated and you have to know what you're doing.
absolutely. Have you ever? And I don't know if you're. Please be honest on this. Have you ever
Sure.
mistakenly eaten a piece of meat in the past 20 years?
I'm not gonna lie, I probably have, and this is more so maybe due to like family members come home and maybe at the beginning they forgot like, oh crap, that's right, Mike's a vegetarian. And it's not so much that we're like, oh, I actually had like a chunk of steak or like
Yeah.
enough that I can detect that right off the bat. It's more so like, oh, my aunt cooked the rice with chicken broth.
Okay.
It's more that kind of accidental ingestion, not like, oh, I accidentally ate a chicken wing.
Yeah.
No,
My bad. I'm
100%
saying the whole
that's a chicken
turkey.
wing.
My fault. Messed up.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh no.
And I think that's where I wanted to go with it was like, do you like automatically, like, does it trigger something in your mind? Like, okay, this is definitely not like a vegan product. Like you can tell and taste.
Yeah, there are some that you can. Some you can't, sure. But there are some where I'm like, let me just double check on this. I
Yeah.
think this might have, some animal product. And I go and ask like my aunt or something. And she's like, oh yeah, I cooked it with chicken broth. I was like, crap.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what the reason why maybe it's not so popular is because I don't think lazy people can be vegans or vegetarians because it requires a lot of like understanding and also the will, right? To like want to make sure that, and maybe I'm wrong. It seems like you're like, maybe you can be lazy and be. What do you think on that?
I think you could be lazy, but I also see like you don't have to dedicate yourself to saying like, oh, I'm vegetarian or I'm vegan. If you're eating meat and let's say 2 out of your 5 days are vegetarian based, that's a win.
Let's go.
Let's
go. I feel so much better now.
Because I mean, we also get stuck with this whole notion of like, I kind of look like vegetarianism and veganism to some people. Like I look at sexuality. Some people look at sexuality where it's you're either straight, gay, or lesbian. But then we have the Kinsey scale where it says, well, it's a spectrum. You can go up to this area and be still straight, but have a little bit of gay in you or something like that. So I look at vegetarian and veganism the same way. It's like you could totally still eat meat, but just because you have a veggie burger on Thursday, you're not necessarily automatically a vegetarian. It's like no, you just ingested some vegetarian products in you, and if you keep on going that, maybe you can get to a certain point where you can say, you know what, I could probably consider myself a vegetarian because majority of my food consumption is vegetarian based.
That's actually really cool. That's a cool thought to think about because it doesn't.
I'm veggie curious. You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't put like such a big distance between somebody who wants to like try and dabble with it versus somebody who's like full on, right? Because like you mentioned, I can for instance just cut down on meat intake for a week, and I'm not gonna say I'm a vegetarian or a vegan, but I'm trying, and that's all. That's really it's not a right or wrong type of situation.
Right, and I think just society wise, we're moving from that spectrum of like it's either black or white to now it's like it's gray.
Yeah, the gray. Yep.
I could be a little bit more on the white side or more on the black side or more on the gray side.
Okay.
That's being more accepted now, and I think that's going to be the success to making vegetarian veganism much more popular going forward. Because there's pressure of like, as soon as I announce, oh, I'm a vegetarian, okay, I'm now going to hold you to the standards of if you eat meat, if I see you drink milk, if I see you touch cheese or something, I'm going to call you out, happens.
You're right, Mike.
And that's why I'm not a vegetarian. That's the only reason.
No, honestly, I'll be real with you.
Like,
I've always like thought about like, let's be real. Like I'm not a vegetarian. I haven't thought of like going vegan, but like I've always thought like maybe 1 week I'll just eat like no meat or something, or like, and those little steps that you can put there, like you don't have to label yourself as a vegetarian or a meat eater. You just label yourself as somebody who's improving your environment, right? Or helping out animals because you like animals. That's a cool.
And
little,
it's not
little
just that,
there.
bro. It's like you're literally also helping your body because a lot of these meat products have hella GMO. They're loaded, bro. You ever seen the wings at Smoke Eaters? Them motherfuckers this big, bro.
Oh, you can taste the GMO,
bro. I feel like that is like every bite is like a little bit of steroids, bro. That chicken is way too big to be a regular chicken, bro. Look at Wingstop. They're like this. Smoke Eaters like boom, bro. Like, and you know what I mean? Like you feel better when you don't eat that stuff, like fried food, but in itself, and like I've been what I've been doing, and thank you, Mike, for bringing this spectrum and this gray area into meat consumption, where like we could dabble in between, and it's better for everything, because I've been trying to slowly transition at least, or just be more conscious. So lately I've been doing a lot more like vegetarian vegan lunches at work, right? Because we have that option. And like I've noticed that my energy feels way better when I eat something that doesn't contain meat. I'm able to actually stay a lot more energetic throughout my workday, whereas before I would get very lethargic. I would get very lazy, tired around 2 p.m. You know, it's that lazy feeling after you eat. And it's good for your body, bro. Like, you're not just helping the environment, like you're helping yourself, you know? The environment is a really big thing, but like your body is also it's not getting all this genetically modified shit that's going on, you know? So
Did you ever dabble with like Dr. Sebi and like his like teachings or any of that?
No,
Mark?
I can say I have.
I got
'Cause,
his
like,
CMOS pills.
Yeah, you got what?
His CMOS pills. He was a big
Yeah.
advocate that CMOS, if you take it every day, it actually improves your health, your what's that? Your sex drive? What's libido?
Libido.
Yeah.
Libido.
Yeah. Also,
That's
like
why I
from
took
his
it.
point of perspective, he passed away. He was like rumored and like to be kind of like a guru of health, right? He believed that like
He was
meat
killed.
in itself was thank you for the ad
It
lib
was
there.
conspiracy
Meat in
alert.
itself was the worst form of protein as it like
Mhm.
contains a lot of mucus and it doesn't help like a pro or like what is it, alkaline electric balance. It goes into like this whole like science and stuff. And like he kind of talks about living a plant-based lifestyle will increase your livelihood and give you all these different things. So I was just wondering if like you did any reading on him, and like I read a little bit and dabbled on it, and like after even talking about like this, I'm not saying I'm going vegan, I'm not going vegetarian, but I'm
Hey,
gonna be
you
more conscious.
don't
I
go-
will be more conscious. And I think that anybody who is listening, if you've ever dabbled, you don't have to go full on vegan. You don't have to go full on vegetarian. If you want to, you should. Absolutely. But I
Right.
think everybody owes it to be conscious about what's going on in our world and around it.
Right. I agree. And remember, there's also the stigma around, vegetarian and veganism, especially amongst men, where it's like, oh, you're a vegan, you're a vegetarian, you're not a real man. Because real men, it's like
Eat meat.
glad that mind frame is changing. But,
Mm-hmm.
a couple years back, that was a mind frame.
Absolutely.
that machismo, huh?
Oh my God, big time. Big
Is that
time.
why you taught us machismo in
That-
Upward Bound?
that
Oh
was-
yeah, I
that was
threw
one of the
everything at y'all
presentations.
because I knew that I couldn't have this upcoming generation still continue to hold on to those narratives. Like they had to change.
Yeah.
That's so dope.
But I also wasn't very militant with y'all. I always took it with y'all as like, let me just introduce it to you. So if it works for some of y'all, great. If it doesn't for some of y'all, hey, it doesn't. But at least you have this knowledge that maybe someone down the line you might be able to speak about it because you heard it from me.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
respect.
Nice.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And I think to wrap it up, my biggest takeaway with this is that it really starts with the education of like animal rights. And I think that's what sparked it. And I think we need to provide that more resources for that.
The
For
awareness.
younger
Yeah,
generation.
awareness for sure.
Exactly.
The awareness. Look at, these documentaries, research a
Exactly.
little bit about where your food comes from. Why is this smoke eater's chicken so buff? I don't know.
Right?
Because it's getting
Yeah.
injected, dude. So
Yeah.
good point, Anthony.
Yeah, I feel that you're right. We should expose ourselves to those things before making a decision. Because if we're not doing research, we're not educating ourselves, and then saying, okay, I still want to eat meat, then you're not doing anything, right? So I agree.
Mhm.
That and
Watch Seaspiracy, everyone. If you're listening to this, you
Yeah,
haven't watched it,
start
make sure you go watch it. Start with that, and
Okay.
see if it changes your mind.
see if it changes.
All right.
Yep.
Mike, do you have any wise words to leave our audience with?
The wise words that I would want to leave upon your audience is one that I myself have been looking at more recently. It's more so because I've been wanting to get another tattoo, so I've been wanting to get something quote wise. So one been coming to mind is from one of these bands that I listen to that I like. It's the lead singer Brandon Shapetti from Bleeding Through. His quote is "Rise above," and so I just look at things just just rise above it. If there's something, just rise above it. And so that's what I've been utilizing recently.
Simple,
Nice.
Like that.
short, straight to the point, impactful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ricky, any takeaways or wise words you want to leave off?
Yeah, my wise words this week actually come from Steve Stout, who is a businessman that just made a really big collaboration with Apple. Something that he said that really stuck to me were some tips on success. And what he basically said is, to be successful, you have to have an irrational belief in yourself. You have to have an irrational persistence to everything that you do. You have to have an irrational understanding of perfection, because you have to have an irrational belief you will persevere and succeed no matter what happens.
Nice.
All right.
Great.
All my wise words.
Thank
I
you
think
for that.
oh, my bad. I just over here introducing myself here, dude. My bad.
No, go ahead, Mark. Handle. Grab the mic.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think we hit it on the point for today. Learning is everything. And from the words of BB King, the beautiful thing about learning is that absolutely no one can take it away from you. So keep learning and keep earning.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Very good. Last but not least, I just want to say, Mike, we really appreciate you coming to the show. You are a great mentor and really a big factor in why I went to college and, my successes over there. And so I just want to say, with my wise words, act as if what you do makes a difference, because it does. And with that, everyone tune in again next week, because we are out.
Hey.
Nice.
Everybody better listen right now. Try to not eat meat once a day is all I'm saying.
Meatless Mondays.
Meatless Mondays.
There you go.
Hashtag Meatless Mondays.
Hey.